to say just a huge thank you to all the supporters that I have, including you guys even coming tonight. But yeah, and I've had so many people supporting me in so many different ways, financially, emotionally, spiritually, walking with me, appearing at just the right moment. All of that has happened. Yeah, so I guess I'll start with my story as far as bringing about the Hikoi. I've had a bit of a lifelong tendency to depression, and I've found yoga just the most amazing therapy for that. Like if I do my hour of yoga a day, generally I'm totally sweet. But so anyway, I'm a massage therapist and I do teach a bit of yoga as well. And I've been living down on the Kapiti coast for the last few years, and I needed to top up my income a bit, and I sort of thought, well, it's probably quite a good use of my qualities to do a bit of work in mental health, you know, be quite a good listener and quite compassionate, you know, all that. And sort of even a bit naively imagining myself, you know, showing people a bit of yoga and dietary advice. And so I applied for my job as a support worker for one of the trusts down in Te Araroa. And yeah, you know, it's quite a flowery sort of description of your role as a support worker and all the, you know, wonderful things you're going to be doing to support people and what an inspiring thing it is, and the flowery vision of the organisation itself. And then I hit the ground on the first day, and I just think, oh my goodness, you know, just the levels of medication of the people that I was working with, and just it's just sort of made everything else kind of meaningless in context to that, you know, to that immovable great big elephant that's sitting right there, and the fact that there was just no other choice for people. Nothing else was offered really. You know, there's a sort of tag on of the goals and the this and the that. But the reality of people that are so sedated, their life force just so completely compressed by medication, it was just relatively meaningless. And I just wanted to run really, but financial necessity kept me there. And after a while, I did, of course, develop quite a thank you, Teresa. Yeah, I developed a real rapport for the people that I worked with, and I'm meaning the guys that I was supporting and also the staff that I worked with, and that gave the job meaning for me. But it was always with a great sort of discontent in my heart and my belly about the way the whole system was working, and the lack of voice for these guys. Just it was just sort of sort of unbearable, but I bore it. And so yeah, I sort of carried on doing that for a couple of years, and then I just felt I've got to stand up and say something. And the vision for it as a Hikoi arose through hearing about the opening of the Te Araroa walkway, which opened officially about a year ago. And I sort of had this big feeling come up in my body of wanting to do the walkway, but sort of right alongside that feeling was wanting to do it to raise money for something other than what I was doing in Korerua. And my original vision was almost like a sort of alternative-y kind of healing centre for people, and of course that was a bit of a sort of bridge too far in terms of what I'm likely to raise in terms of funds doing a Hikoi like this. So the main purpose for me came to be awareness raising. And yeah, any big change, that's got to be where it starts, and it's sort of such a taboo kind of subject for people. You know, people are very kind of frightened of anything to do with mental health generally, the general population, and I think they have very little understanding of how the system currently works. Or yeah, so that became the main thrust of what the Hikoi is, and there really are a lot of alternative means that have worked really successfully. in other countries, particularly soteria houses in the US. In Finland, they have something called open dialogue, which works really well with psychosis, and exercise. There's a lot of dietary things that are indicated to be really, really helpful for psychosis and other mental conditions. And just even I find that increasingly, I mean, even a label of schizophrenia, I mean, how helpful is that ever going to be to a person to feel that they have a disease that is then treatable by a drug, a lifelong disease, it's just not even scientifically. It's not even scientifically correct. And I just think this dialogue needs to be really wide open, and there needs to be the pressure put on the people that need to make the changes to change that sort of back to frontness of it all. Like, it's not that meds are never helpful to people. Some people do find some of the meds helpful. I often sort of think, oh, wouldn't it be fantastic if the placebo effect, which of course is a big effect, was attached to something that wasn't actually doing you a lot of damage as well. But yeah, in terms of healing, obviously what's needed for healing is to rebuild a relationship with life, and so if meds are useful to that, then yeah, maybe a little bit on the side, but with an understanding that the real healing comes from all the things that are going to help a person rebuild their relationship with life. And I just don't see that happening in the current system. I mean, there's kind of lip service to it, but and some people do make it through and do get the support they need occasionally, but by and large, with that centre of the mandala as medication, it just is a very grim picture, and the long-term outcomes are not good. And even the cost effectiveness, like to think in terms of all the alternatives that I'm suggesting would really help people. I'm sure the argument would come up, oh, how could the system afford that? How can the system afford what's currently happening with the long-term outcomes of people on these very heavy medications for life, benefit for life, highly subsidised medications, all the side effects that the medical system has to deal with, all the constant monitoring that has to go on with people on these heavy-duty antipsychotics. It's just an equation that doesn't add up to long-term healing. So that's the basic message. Yeah, I'll just read out a quote from, I think the main part of this document was written by a guy called Will Hall in the States, who is part of something called the Icarus Project and Freedom Centre, and he's published a really large document which I would encourage anyone to read, called The Harm Reduction Guide to Coming Off Psychiatric Drugs. Not only is there no solid science behind viewing mental disorders as simple malfunctions of biology corrected by drugs, but many people with even the most severe diagnosis of schizophrenia or bipolar go on to recover completely without medication. The experiences that get labelled mental disorders are not incurable or always lifelong. They are much more mysterious and unpredictable. For some people, psychiatric drugs are helpful tools that change consciousness in useful ways, but they are not medically necessary treatments for illness. Once you acknowledge this, more options become thinkable, and the potential risks of psychiatric drugs come under greater scrutiny because they are very serious, including chronic illness, mental impairment, dependency, worse psychiatric symptoms, and even risk of early death. So, so we want to present a petition to Parliament when I arrive down in Wellington in May, and we haven't quite finalised the wording on that. So I'd be really happy for anyone who wants to have input to that, to what we'd like to have in that petition. Obviously, I'm not promising that everything that everyone says will be included, but yeah, the more voices that we have in that petition, the better. And yeah, I think I'd just like to open it up now for whatever anyone would like to ask or contribute or